All right, thank you so much for staying with Daybreak. We're getting into that conversation on money and marriage. We'd like to hear your views. 22422 is the SMS line, at Trevor Mbija, at Citizen TV Kenya, at Zinzi_K, hashtag Daybreak. You can also call in 0719 777. Let's just have a discussion, talk about this issue of marriage. And we're not going to delve into the merits or the demerits of this particular story that we're running, but it's just a precursor into what we're going to talk about because it affects most of us. So former Chief of Staff at the Deputy President's Office, Marian Keitany, has told the court that Meru Senator Mithika Linturi lied to her about being divorced to win her heart and her hand in marriage.
Keitany's testimony delved into their 2-year marriage that appears to have been built on rocky ground, and as Raquel Muigai reports, the validity of their marriage remains to a center of the divorce application case. Here's that story.
As she took to the witness stand for a second time, Marian Keitany revealed what pushed her to accept a proposal to become Mithika Linturi's wife, despite Linturi being involved with 3 other women before her.
He had said he was divorced to the woman he was married to, and therefore he was available.
Were you ever shown any divorce papers for all these 3 women?
What he gave me around 2015, before our proposal in 2016, was divorce proceedings that he had initiated. And he gave me the copy and told me to keep it because he had already started the process. He was concluding.
But the document ceased to be valid as Linturi, through his lawyer Muthomi Thiankolu, revealed a marriage certificate that showed he was married to one Mercy Kaimenyi, the second wife who, according to documents in Keitany's possession, was divorced. Keitany sought to have the divorce documents authenticated by police.
And according to the police, the signature in that petition that you are given belonged to who?
The signature belongs to Franklin Mithika Linturi.
So was the document that was given to you genuine?
Yes, it was a genuine document.
In the 4 hours she gave testimony, Keitany indicated that the two got married in a traditional ceremony in Nandi South on the 16th of August 2016, just months after the proposal on the 14th of February the same year. Unfortunately, on the material day, Linturi's parents were not present in the entourage that visited Keitany's home.
He mentioned to me that in the Meru tradition, once a man had already married somebody else and the parents had gone to that home, when he is engaging in a second, third, fourth and any other marriage, the parents cannot therefore visit that home.
Other than the assurance that Linturi was divorced, Keitany insists that the financial investment she had made in their relationship since 2014 proved to be a major reason as to why their marriage was a good idea. With the hearing set to continue on the 28th of August, witnesses from both sides are expected to also testify in court before a decision is made on whether the two, Mithika Linturi and Marian Keitany, were legally married. Raquel Muigai, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
And Tabitha, I'd like to start with you because you're a marriage and family therapist. Are you seeing a pattern where the current generation is more intolerant towards the institution of marriage, or has it always been the same all through?
My pain, Trevor, has always been that people get into marriage with a lot of ignorance because marriage is a lifelong career. And I'm sure I am trained. I have spent a lot of time in school. I've paid a lot of money to become a marriage therapist. You have also trained many years to become who you are. My friend lawyer here has been to school many years. He has spent a lot of time and money. But imagine the longest career that you get into, you go into it totally ignorant. You know nothing. I have authored a book called I Choose to Enjoy My Marriage. And this is my product for my 15 years counseling as a marriage therapist. And what I've discovered is that people don't know what marriage is all about. People go into marriage thinking the way they are when they are dating is going to be the same forever. And that period, when you are actually looking at each other and telling each other that surely God created you on a Monday. Yeah.
When he was still fresh.
When he was very fresh, you actually think that is going to be there because you actually say with a very loud voice and added a microphone that we are going to be together until death do us part. Yeah. And so you think the way you have actually been behaving when you are dating is the way you're going to behave for the rest of your life. Unfortunately, marriage is something that actually has to be worked on.
What changes?
You have to work on it. You go into it not knowing that you can enjoy it. I say there are 3 options. When you get married, you can enjoy your marriage. You can endure your marriage. And you can also call it quits. And I say all these 3 options have candidates or disciples, if you may call it that. Yeah. And so when you go into it, you actually you are not ready to work on your marriage. I have heard so many people say, I can't be in a marriage that is not working. A marriage does not work. You work on it. So the people I have, the reason why I had the courage to write this book, and this book has received a lot of favor. So many people have read it. The reason why I had the courage to write this book is because in my 15 years of counseling marriages, I have counseled married people. I have counseled people who are getting ready to marry. And it looks to me like the ones who are married, 50% of them probably, we have been able to salvage their marriages. 50% we have not been able to salvage their marriages. But the people I have counseled personally, before they marry, we call it premarital counseling. None of them has ever come back to tell me that their marriage did not work. They have always told me it's so enjoyable. And when you look at them, everything around them is going on well. Why? Because they went in knowing you're not only a consumer, you're also a producer.
And speaking of marriage, this is how Kenya's constitution defines marriage as per our Marriage Bill 2013. It says, and I quote, it defines marriage as a voluntary union of a man and a woman, whether monogamous or polygamous, and registered in accordance with the Act. And it also goes on further to detail the kinds of recognized marriages: Christian marriages, civil marriages, customary Hindu, Islamic marriages, as well as marriages of other faiths or groups. So Steve Biko, as an investment analyst, here you are, you're 2 different people who are coming with 2 different backgrounds, 2 different careers. What discussion, how is an investment discussion looking like, a healthy investment discussion, a relationship, before you say I do? I believe this is a conversation you should be having prior to, you know, getting into marriage.
As she's been able to put it, that most of us, majority of us get into marriage with a lot of ignorance. And I can be able to tell you that investment is the last point of discussion when many people get into marriage. When we're looking at, when we're doing a survey for clients to invest in any country across the world, normally what we look at are the risks involved in an investor putting their money in any country, and what are the legal challenges, and what is the way forward. But when you look at a marriage, personally, from like my own point of view, from my own experience, few of us are actually able to discuss the issue of investment. Before, normally it's when we're going to do the Rura show, how much money do we need for that? We need money for the wedding, where do we get the money for, and that's it.
What is it about money that makes
people don't really discuss, do we need to invest? Do we need to have this? Maybe I've come in with my property, she's coming with a property. We don't really look at how we can be able to merge them together to improve our financial status. Normally just raise money for the wedding, raise money for the dowry, and then now, you know, the rest will pick up. And as she's put it, what normally leads to a lot of marriages breaking is failure to communicate, in terms, especially when it comes to money. You've done your wedding, it's your 2nd month after the honeymoon, you're broke. You can't pay rent, and now problems come in. As we're in 2 different generations. My generation is actually very impatient when it comes to solving problems. We are very impatient when it comes to looking at issues. I want the marriage to work, but I don't have the time to actually put it in. And one of the things that the 2010 Constitution has been able to do for us is to, when you look at the birth of the Matrimonial Property Act, 2014, which came into effect on 16th of January 2014, created an environment whereby we can have what you call a prenup agreement on discussing a couple of these things. And one of the things that people don't discuss investments or property issues before marriage of any sort, whether it's Christian church, or traditional Islamic or Hindu, is because we always think we'll be able to resolve it. And from an African perspective, discussing a prenup before getting married gives the notion that we're going to break up.
So what does, okay, so here you are, guy X and guy and the girlfriend. How does that conversation look like? What are the talking points that we need to have before we get married? Are we discussing how many bank accounts we are going to use, whose bank account goes where, who's handling what? What does that look like? What does that discussion look like?
What I expect for someone like her who's in marriage counseling to actually be able to advise people who are planning to get married, because normally from what I've seen in my church is when you give the intent to get married, you're taken through a process of advice. And I think one of the key issues when you're looking at it, when you look at the Marriage Act, which clearly defines the issues during marriage and divorce, and Matrimonial Property Act, basically the key issues that you need to look at. One, how much property are you coming with? Two, are there kids involved from a previous marriage or previous relationship? Three, how many dependents do you have that will actually come with, who will depend on this property? Four, what is the traditional aspect of marriage? For example, the Luo culture and Luya culture about this wife inheritance. What happens in terms of this? So these are the issues that actually will be able to define whether the couple will have to agree on a legal aspect of having a prenup, as guided by the Matrimonial Properties Act of 2014. And these issues are what defined. But you see, most of us don't look at these issues. If you look at the case that we just shown here of the senator, it's actually very disappointing, because these are key leaders in the country, and you're seeing a lot of issues being raised. No one is looking at the kids they have. The senator has 6 kids in total. They're not young, yes, but what is the ripple effect of this drama that is actually meant to be in camera, actually being aired publicly? So no one is looking at, and in this case, Kitani is actually forgetting that the property in case will also involve the 6 children from the previous marriage. And I know the issue is not whether they were in love or not. The issue is the property, the Runda house, the cars, and the money in the bank. There's actually the discussion point. And this boils down to what most of us are going through.
And David, I'd like to bring you in on this. At what point in your experience are you supposed to talk about investment? And are we even supposed to have prenups to begin with?
Actually, I would want to say I get amazed, because the people who are very people who are very successful in many other areas are the ones who do not do well in marriage. And I want to say that getting married, premarital counseling, if you get a good premarital counselor, is so simple. When you come to money issues, a lot of money can bring a lot of problems. Very little money can bring a lot of problems. Average amount of money can bring a lot of problems. But when I do counseling for people who are getting married, and people who are getting married are very friendly, and they agree a lot, and they want to make their marriage better than all our marriages. And so when you come to the issue of finances, I normally put it so simply. I say there are terms for money. My money, your money, our money.
Should we look at it like that from the beginning?
That is the way I actually look at it. And God has helped the marriages that have cancelled to have no issues on marriage, on money.
So money, your money, our money.
My money, your money, our money. And if, like the two of you, you are getting married, you are on my desk for counseling, I would ask you, which one would you want to adopt for your marriage?
Right.
And people who are actually getting married, who really value one another, and I think this is my best friend forever, they will adopt what?
Our money.
Our money. And so we talk about what is our money, what does it mean? And for sure, I want to say, Trevor, I've been in marriage quite long. And the issue of money has never been a problem in my marriage, because it has ever been our money.
So when we say our money,
our investment, our paying school fees, our rent,
so
our development, whatever.
So is it 50-50,
yeah,
40,
how do you
60, 30, 70?
No.
Because if she makes more money than I do, how can our money
in a
be
marriage, there is nobody who makes more money than the other.
Okay.
Because if you are earning 100,000 and this other one is earning 20,000, you put that money together against your budget. You have 120, but when he has 100 and you have 20, probably you have only 100, because like women are very, very cunning when it comes to money. They say, our money when it is my husband's money, and my money when it is my money. For the man to get money from a woman, even if it's his wife, it's very difficult.
So when we say our money,
who take off with our money, approach, they do very well. Because
but does it last? At some point, there's a
division. It lasts.
Like everybody.
Trevor, I'm grateful to God to say, this December I'll be married 42 years.
I mean, you're an exception, and congratulations.
Not me alone. There are people who are even doing better than me.
But in our current generation, like Biko was saying,
don't talk about generations, because even before us, marriages used to break.
Right.
People used to fight in marriages. Today, people are doing well in marriages. So we cannot, say the generation issue is what is actually eating our marriages.
Let's stick to that aspect of our marriage as well. I mean, our money. So then how do you deal with, who deals with expenses, who deals with the investment, who takes what, how do you go
when
about
it
that?
Breaks.
Yeah, well, not even when it breaks, but
husband
just
and
within,
wife are supposed to be one. When you have a house, it does not belong to the husband, it doesn't belong to the wife. It is our house. When you have a kid to take to school, God gives one kid at a time. So it is not this one side is mine and the other side is my husband's. Right. It is one kid for the couple.
Okay, because do you agree? Or should I have my own bank account, he has his own bank account, then we have the family bank account? What do you say as an investment lawyer?
What I know is, from a legal point of view, no single case scenario can apply to all cases. Every case is independent and it's unique. And she does raise valid points, but from a legal point of view, the Matrimonial Property Act is very clear when you're coming together and when you're together and when you split. It does define the areas where, which property will go where and things like that. For example, if there are kids involved, if you had money, stocks, property before, you came together, and the law is very clear on how to evaluate your contribution. Okay. Whether it's financial contribution, whether it's non-financial contribution, where you need to produce receipts, or whether just taking care of the matrimonial home will amount to having contributed to the generation of that wealth. Yes. In a polygamous situation, it also does define when the husband and the first wife and the second wife are able to split the property. But the issue that she raised is we're looking at an issue where the couple agrees before marriage. Then what happens during marriage when they become more wealthy and richer, and God forbid what happens during a divorce proceeding. And in the case of the Meru Senate is actually an eye-opener to a lot of issues, because here we're looking at how they're able to come together. There were previous relationships with the senator before. There's a lot of property. There are 6 children involved. There's the issue of culture involved. So for me, she has a point to raise, but then what we need to understand is the issue of generation, as she might not want to look at the issue of generation, but for me I'd like to look at it because our forefathers, the church and our elders from the clan perspective have failed to guide and advise us on how to handle our wives and husbands as far as things are concerned. If you look at the late Kenneth Okoth's drama just before burial, he left very specific instructions of how he wanted to be buried. But then the clan on the father's side refused that. The mom was very vocal on TV saying, no, what have you done to my son? You know, there was the European wife, then there was the side chick. Yes. And then there was a baby involved in this case.
So how does our culture influence how we see money?
The law is very clear on how culture comes in and how it will influence how the money is actually split. And this is all about how much did you contribute to this? How much do you have evidence for that? And this is where the Constitution comes in to define what a marriage is. Because now, once the Constitution has defined what marriage is, and you're able to prove in a court of law what marriage is under the Marriage Act and the Matrimonial Property Act, then the court will be left to actually decide on this. There's a very interesting case of 2018 whereby FIDE had gone to court to challenge certain sections of the Matrimonial Property Act where they were saying that property should be split 50-50 between both spouses, irrespective of what happened during the marriage, whether the wife worked or not. But the judge set aside their prayers because he said that this will lead a rise to fraudulent marriages, whereby two people come together to get married, and then the woman splits because knowing she's going to get 50% of it without really explaining to the court how
and
much
that also
contribution.
doesn't cover what you brought in.
Exactly. So the law is actually very clear on a lot of these issues, and culture is actually very important because now, for example, if I'm married culturally, where I've done from the Luhya customs, where we've done the traditional aspects, like now in this case, this is a traditional marriage, so the court is actually going to take into consideration the Meru and the Kalenjin aspects of the marriage and whether they're actually fair to the parties. So Kaitani is going to she will have to explain how much contribution she did to this. Then they'll look at the traditional aspect of it and then pass her.
So at the end of the day, Biko, when it comes to contribution and evidence, which you've talked about, how do you keep assets separate in a marriage?
She's been able to say, once you're married, you're one. So this is not how to keep your assets separate. The issue is that you pray your marriage will work at the end of the day. But in the event that things don't actually work out, the law is very clear on how you're going to split it. So what I think, and my advice can be, is people should actually work very hard on the marriage to succeed and be able to make a lot of wealth out of it. But when it comes to splitting, the understanding who owns what in a marriage, it's very clear. The law is actually very clear. When you look at the Matrimonial Property Act, it defines what your contribution is.
What if in this case, yes. What if in this case I work harder than Trevor does?
It's not true.
What happens in such a scenario?
In the case whereby the woman works harder than the man.
Or not the woman per se, but just the individual.
One spouse works harder than the other.
You see, for example, the man, whichever, say one spouse works harder than the other and the other one stays at home. Say the man stays at home to take care of the kids and take care of the home. The court will look at the input the man has put in terms of taking care of the matrimonial home. How was the home when you got married?
Now quantifying that is where the problem is. And
now like that has been left to the court will actually look at what is fair, who are the dependents. It seems like in this case, the 6 kids are going to define where the property actually goes to and the dependents. So at the end of the day, 4 key issues will actually define. Do you have the receipts for that? How is the abode, your matrimonial home, looking like before you got married, during and after? Were you living in a rental home? Now you have your own home. 3, who are the dependents? How many children do you have? Are there kids from a previous marriage? Did you come? What was the wealth that you brought in before you got married? If you had, say, 1 million before you got married, has it grown to what percentage? So the court will actually look at this and then be able, using precedents of other decided cases, be able to decide what is fair for both parties.
Tabitha, you want to jump in before we go on a break?
Yeah, I think what I would want to say is that me, as a marriage counselor, that's what I do from Monday to Sunday. All my effort is geared towards making a marriage work. And what my brother is saying here is we are actually going to the law when marriage has not worked. And so when you talk about you working harder than Trevor, let's assume that your husband and wife, in what terms? That is very relative, because even if you got married and the two of you decided one will actually go to make money and the other one is going to make the home, you would still use that money as your money. And actually what my law expert is saying is that when people get married, they normally sit down and talk. You might actually get married when you are already earning, when you have already ways to make money. And we say there are elements we look at marriage. Element number 1 is your marriage should have some legal contract. Number 2, there must be a ceremony. Number 3, there must be an economic aspect, the way you look at your economic environment. And at that one, when you're coming in to get married, if you already have acquired some property, there is that what he is calling prenuptial agreement. We are going to have everything for both of us apart from this particular item. If you agree at the beginning, that is actually what he's calling prenuptial agreement.
Do you encourage the spouses that come to you, the individuals that come to you to sign prenups?
We do not actually tell people what to do. We actually tell them to make choices that they are going to be able to live with. If you actually feel like there is something that you own that you do not want your husband to participate on or to benefit from, you actually tell him from the beginning. And we don't find this one happening because the people who are getting married are so friendly. They love each other so much. And so they say, all that I have and all that I will ever have is for you and me.
All right. We need to take a commercial break and sort of digest all of this. But let's take a look at your feedback on SMS 22422, on Twitter at Citizen TV Kenya. That's how we want you to be part of this show. So let's take a look at your feedback.
Let's see what you're saying online. And Chauro says, a high time we start documenting each episode in our social life. Marriage is good as sharing, but mark clearly from the word go, what to and at what percentage. Most of us nowadays can't be trusted. Okay, still sticking to Twitter, hashtag Daybreak. Kolo, good morning. You say, I think nowadays relationships are more money-minded than love and trust as was before. Is that the case, Tabitha? More money-minded?
I am hearing that a lot, but with the people I take through premarital counseling, we actually order the minds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just BT.
Yeah. Says marriage in the 21st century is a union on paper only. Trust is limited. Many folks in marriages today are financially single, which limits financial growth and wealth creation. We are broken.
Okay. Still on Twitter, Kennedy, you say, you know, the problem currently affecting the longevity of marriages is that we get into the institution with our mindset set on what we hold, not what we are. And the most cause of the divorce to our generation is imitation, notwithstanding that it generates limitation.
Oh, wow. Let's see what you're saying on SMS, which is 22422. Just tell us your name and where you're texting us from. Benji Dibra says, marriage and money are two different things. If you believe in money, instead playing a role as a wife or husband, marriage will end up as a story. It's better each couple to be stable.
Okay, this is on SMS. You don't say who you are. You say, money has led to moral decay in the society. Many marriages and relationships are broken as many anchor their marriage on money.
Yeah. Let's see another one here. Alvin Musamali says, money has led to moral decay in the society. Many marriage and relationships are breaking as many anchor their marriage and relationships on quick sand called money. It's pretty much the same thing.
Yes. Wendy, you're watching from satellite. You say, amen, Sister Tabitha. When two people get married, they cease existing as two separate beings and become one entity. So they should do everything in harmony as one, with the husband as a loving and fair head who also considers the voices of other members as he makes the final decision. If everyone humbly understands and accepts this, marriage will be beautiful.
All right. And on that note, let's take a quick break. Keep your feedback coming, 22422. We'd like to hear your thoughts on this issue of money and marriage. We'll come back. We'll take the last round of this discussion.
Yes.
Talk about several other issues. Yeah,
for example,
prenups, exactly.
Do prenups work? Is that the right way to start a marriage as well? And in an example where you haven't done the marriage, the ceremony that Tabitha is talking about, you just did come and stay for 6 months.
Yeah.
Does the law look at that as marriage? What does that look like 20 years from now when you decide to separate? So much to discuss.
And how does a prenup exactly look like? Is it a standard document or do we agree?
Well, thank God for Biko.
It should be based on what we already have. That in just a bit.